What do you wish you had learned sooner?
Emotional regulation. I wish someone had told me sooner, Ansu, chill, relax, don't take things personally. Someone doesn't respond to your message, it's cool. Like if someone doesn't hire you, don't worry about it. If someone even speaks ill of you, that's not going to disrupt your long-term trajectory. You know, I always hear Nigerians talk about, you know, if you grew up in Lagos State or you grew up in Lagos, you've got that hustle mentality.
I know.
Right? So it's very similar when you grow up in that kind of council estate, you just develop resilience. In university, we have these holidays. We have summer, we have Easter. Oh yeah, I don't have a lot of money, so it's not like I'm going to go gallivanting and go on holidays and trek the Himalayas like people go on family holidays. So what am I going to do this time? I'm just going to sit at home, watch TV? No, I'm going to work. Okay, so am I just going to go ask for extra hours at M&S? No, like I need something that's going to help me to get, align my strategy and achieve my goals. So this is why I love being around Nigerians, because Nigerians, you're always hustling, So the same way I said when I was in Peckham, I was hanging around with the Chinese and the Vietnamese guys because they were the ladies. The guys were chilling, but the ladies were on it, and so I was copying them. By the time I get to later in life, and I'm kind of I'm keeping an eye on the movers. What are the serious kids doing? What are the ones that are going places doing? They're all trying to get internships. I was like, okay, so that's what I need to do.
All right, welcome everyone to episode 4 of Your Immigrant Success Story. Today's guest is someone that I hold in extreme esteem, if I'm allowed to use that word. I met him probably 2-3 years now, if I put it together, but you just feel like the impact it's had, not just on myself, but on a lot of people, not knowing that he's having those impacts. It's been quite, it's definitely a great one. So without much ado, I know you're really craving to hear from him. Ansumana, Bai-Marrow, welcome to Your Immigrant Success Story.
Thank you so much, Olu. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here this morning.
And thank you so much for honoring us. And we've tried a lot of back and forth to try and make this happen. We've planned, but I'm really grateful, and I appreciate the time you're sparing this morning to record with us. Without much ado, and we're just going to get straight to the session. So, who is Ansumana?
Well, firstly, Ansumana is only if I'm in trouble, and that's my mum, right? So normally, unless someone say my full name, Ansu is what I go by. Who am I? There's two ways of saying it. Normally, in the professional setting, you kind of give the profile of, I'm a compliance officer, chief compliance officer of a large fund, managing director, and this is what I do, right? But from a more personal perspective, single parent raised, only child, who grew up in Peckham, and who's risen on the career ladder and kind of just hustled, and I've got where I am, and I'm always grateful for all of those people and institutions that have helped me along the way. So there's I know that's quite multifaceted, but there's kind of two sides to Ansu.
Thank you. That's inspiring. So we're looking at from Peckham to the top pinnacle of corporate. Well, you've done so well for yourself, I must say.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so I know I didn't tell you this, so there's going to be a trick into what I'm going to check. So, I'm going to start with a couple of fireside questions.
Yeah, for sure.
And you've got 30, 40, 50 seconds to answer each of it. But I'll give you some time. I'm always nice. Okay, so let's get started. We've got 5 of them. If you had chance to have dinner with a world leader, who would that be and why?
Current or someone that's passed?
It could be a past leader.
Look, if it was someone that's passed, it would definitely be Martin Luther King, right? So this guy, not just learned and studious and hardworking, but also had a vision for the black community. Very, very deeply founded in the faith and understands theology. That would be someone that I loved. I would love to sit down, have dinner, and just get his thoughts. A current world leader? I mean, I've met the man, but I've never had the opportunity to speak to him, Tony Blair. Like, don't get me wrong. I know there's gonna be lots of people say, "Oh my God, Iraq War." Yeah. But if we put the Iraq War to the side just for 1 second, this is someone that had tremendous vision, someone that was able to navigate the political landscape in the UK. You know, it's largely a blue country, it's largely a conservative country, and he's managed to, for 3 elections, to convince enough people. So yeah, for sure, Tony Blair, just understanding how he changed the party, and convinced the nation.
Oh, excellent. Good. All right, so we'll move on to the second one. You're doing well, by the way. What movie, book, or TV show has had the most impact on you?
Oh my gosh. That's a tough one. If you were going to ask me about a movie that I liked, that would have been easier. Had the most impact. Look, this again, it's a strange one. There's a book by Tony Robbins called Awaken the Giant Within, and I must have read that when I must have been about 20. Amazing book. It allowed me to see the world and see just the world, how to do things in a different way. The language you use, your verbally your language, as well as your physical body language, your energy levels, the way that you think in terms of asking questions. It was just it was a book that opened my mind and just made me think, okay, game on. I can influence and change things around me. Love that book. Excellent. Apart from the Bible, of course. But, I think Awaken the Giant Within was my book and is my book.
Right, good. All right. What's one missed opportunity you wish you had a second chance on?
I had the fortune to work at BlackRock, and it's the promotion that got away from me, right? And pretty much all of the organizations that I've worked for, I've been promoted once or twice. And BlackRock, whilst it went really well, I was on the cusp of being promoted, and then it just didn't happen. And I'm sure we'll come on to that later on. But I think if I could rewind, just because I'm a competitive guy, I would have. I think there's a few things that I could have done one thing that I could have done to have increased the chances from 60% to 90%.
Oh, good. And we've got 2 more to go. What do you wish you'd learned sooner?
What should we learn sooner?
Oh, no, what do you wish you had learned sooner?
Oh, okay, yeah. Emotional regulation, right? That's a tough one, because many of us think that between love and passion, that is all the emotional power that you need to overcome and to get things done. That is largely true, but in the workplace and also in relationships, when your emotions rile up, they get strong, you're convicted by something, or you get angry, you act in a certain way. And oftentimes it is not the best thing to do. And a lot of us, a lot of leaders, and a lot of us just in the world of work, as well as personal relationships, marriage, we don't really learn how to control our emotions and still make really good decisions. So I wish someone had told me sooner, Ansu, chill, relax, don't take things personally. Someone doesn't respond to your message, it's cool. Like, if someone doesn't hire you, don't worry about it. If someone even speaks ill of you, that's not going to disrupt your long-term trajectory. I wish I'd learned that sooner. Because when you do that, you're able to impact environments and people a lot more effectively.
Yeah. All right, good. And one last one. Obviously, you and I crossed paths at Imperial College, where we both studied an MBA program. What was your favorite model?
When you said the word model, I had to take a double take and just try to understand what you're asking now. Okay. There's something that we learned in strategy called the Pinto model. And I'm quite a strategic person, and I love the Pinto pyramid. And it was, this idea that if you're presenting findings, that you have the facts, put all the facts in one column, and then you kind of have a summary of what that fact is. So, Ansu's been in financial services 20 years. Ansu, got lots of qualifications in finance. And there the insight that could be gained is Ansu is a technical expert in financial services, and so on and so forth. You kind of gather, or if it's a project at work, let's say you're doing a strategy piece on I don't know consumer attrition for a certain thing. It was like, you're right, the people that tend to leave at this age for this reason at this speed, and you can create a thought, an insight. Most people that leave the firm, they tend to leave after 3 years because of X. And you carry on with that analysis, and then you have multiple insights, and from those insights you can then derive a governing thought, right? And that governing thought it crystallizes all of those insights. And so I've used that multiple times. I've used that when I'm doing performance reviews of my direct reports. I put all the facts, then it'll come up with an insight based on their performance of certain different things, and then the governing thought would then be an assessment of that person. And likewise for myself, in terms of what I want to do and what I want to achieve, I've listed all of those different facts. I've come up with the insights based on that, and then I've derived the governing thought about what my direction of travel and what my ambition is for what I want to achieve. And powerful. I loved it.
Oh, shout out to Imperial College.
For sure, for sure.
Thank you.
Listen, man, Imperial for life.
All right, you're off the seat. No more fireside questions.
We didn't have to kill his mic. That was good. Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's go straight then. I'd like to get an insight into your background. How was growing up like? Just tell me a story.
Yeah, sure. Look, that's growing up was, people, they see me, they see a confident guy, they see someone that's achieved a lot, articulate person, but, you only see the success, or you only see someone at a point in time, irrespective of whether or not they're successful. You don't know what they've gone through. So, my story is I was born in Birmingham in the UK, right? And my mum then went back to Sierra Leone. And then I was in Sierra Leone until I was about 6 years old. So, oftentimes, we came back to the UK and I lived here ever since. So oftentimes it's very easy to forget that actually Creole was my first language, not English, right? And it's funny because, 15, 16 years later, when I went back to Sierra Leone for the first time again, I was having to relearn speaking Creole with fluency. I'd spoken Creole at home continually. So anyway, went back to Sierra Leone, came back to the UK, and my childhood, my dad unfortunately was in Sierra Leone. Him and my mum, they split up, they got divorced. So my mum raised me, right? So my childhood has grown up in East London on council estates and then South London. So in East London, I was one of the few black people. And so you end up getting bullied, right? And this is the 80s. So they're saying, hey, Kunta, like, why are you here? Go back, go live in the mud village. There was none of that. There's no Afro beats then. Being African wasn't cool. You were a target. So a lot of my friends were Caribbean, were Jamaican, were Bayesian. Once I got to South London, but in East London, I can't actually remember a good friend when I was in primary school in East London. I can't remember. There were people, but no one was a really good friend. And I remember getting bullied. I remember, getting beat up. One time, there must have been about, maybe 7 kids, and they would beat up on me, and the black security guard came along and saved me from getting beaten to a pulp. I did have friends, because at that point, I rallied my friends, and I went to that boy's house, the leader of the pack. But such is my training that we didn't actually do anything to him. His parents came out interceding, pleading, please don't do anything. When I got to South London, that was a culture shock, because then everyone was black, or a lot of people were black, and I wasn't used to that. In East London, everyone was either Asian, so Indian, Pakistani, Bengali, or they were white, and I was definitely not cool. By the time I got to South London, most people were Caribbean. There's a few Africans, there's lots of Vietnamese, Chinese, a few white people, but again, I still wasn't cool because I joined in year 8. But I learned during that period to, try to be cool outside of the classroom. And that's normally with the black kids, and learning the lingo and learning to walk, learning to be confident, learning how to, exercise some game with the ladies. But then in the classroom, the Chinese, Vietnamese kids became really good friends with them. They're hardworking. They inspired me. allowed me to push harder academically. So I came out very good. I mean, the school that I went to so bad it got closed down or taken over. So only our height in our year, which was a record, 16% of the kids got 5 A to C's.
Wow.
Only 16, right? When top scores are 98, 97. But yeah, I came up with 12 A to C's. I got put forward for extra GCSEs, so did well. By the time I got to college, I was now more comfortable in my skin. I got a long-term girlfriend, and then by the time I went to university, I decided to go outside of London to widen my view. So I went to University of Sussex, and that was epic. That was amazing because I got to mix with middle-class people. First time I drank real coffee. Before that, it was just Nescafe, instant. I had a pint for the first time. I did a whole load of things. I became president of the African and Caribbean Society. I changed it to the African Caribbean Asian Society. I was an ethnic minorities officer of the student union. Became editor of the school paper. I was the man about town. People knew the name.
I'm not surprised.
So listen. But you go from being picked on and bullied in school, in primary school, to me working on myself to the point where by the time I get to university, exchange students are coming onto campus and saying, "Hey, I had to come and find you and speak to you because I heard that you're the guy to speak to. You're the kid on campus. The big name on campus." And I was like, "Oh, okay, this is sure, whatever." So that was awesome. And I just at that point I realized I can change my environment. I can change my footprint. So yeah.
So you've mentioned growing up, South East London, on the council estate and all that. I really wanted to drill in on how did you feel then? Did you, I think the take for me was anything? Did you feel any different? I know you've mentioned that in terms of, okay, you probably didn't look like people around you, but I'm saying, did that affect you in any way? And I know you've kind of crossed into described how you overcame that, you get, with a lot of activities going into uni, but I'm trying to understand, during this period, what was life like? What was growing up like? You get?
Yeah, look, it was tough. You grew up on council estates. I was, free school meals, milk at primary school. My mum was a nurse, so she was a qualified nurse. But then she became ill after a time. So we were always on the breadline, right? So there was that. And not only was I bullied at school, but then I was also bullied on the estate, So there's times where my mum would send me to the shop and then the gangs would try to hunt me down. So I'd end up having to go and hide, or wander off these estates. And this is a huge estate that we're talking about, Lefevre Walk. So thousands of units. Like the buildings for our estate stretched for, it must have been at least 2 miles, I'm sure. Yeah, because you could, to run from one end to the other, it would take you a few minutes. So if you check out Lefevre Walk in E3, it's no longer there, it's knocked down, but it was huge. So, I'd go to the other side of the estate, I'd wander around. It was a game of cat and mouse, So it was tough, poverty was tough. Being a target was tough. How did it affect me? Resilience eventually, because when you grow up in those kind of situations, you either become subsumed by it, which I wasn't going to let happen. And my mum was great. She kept me off the estate and off the streets. I wasn't allowed to. It's not like, yeah, mum, I'm just going to go out down road and get some chips. I'll be back up. No, you stay at home. The only reason why you're going out is because I've asked you, or we're going out together. So there wasn't that freeness. But I think eventually, and when I came to South London, we're still on estates, nicer estates. Obviously, I was no longer a target. And when you get to South London, I had to learn to, you have to learn to, I wouldn't say defend yourself, but you have to learn how to stay out of danger. So you become a lot more streetwise. You know where the danger spots are, who the danger people are. I still had a run-in. I still got attacked by one gang member because I stood up for myself, so I still got physical scars from that exchange. But I didn't get killed, and there's people I know who did die. There's people I know who lots of horrible things happened to them. Some people got sectioned. That resilience. By the time you get into the corporate world, because you have navigated through so much, your mindset is a lot more tougher. I always hear Nigerians talk about, if you grew up in Lagos State or you grew up in Lagos, there's that you've got that hustle mentality.
I know.
Right? So it's very similar when you grow up in that kind of council estate, you just develop resilience. So yeah.
So I think one thing you kind of honed in there was around the role of your mom in shaping those very early days.
Yeah.
So I think what were those key parental lessons that you think, folks might be watching us today that you think really shaped those early days that people should replicate?
Yeah, look, I'll speak for my mum. My mum, like I say, kept me off the streets. My mum continued to encourage me to work super hard at school, and she was, that immigrant mentality. She wasn't able to give me technical advice on what I should do by way of the homework, but she was, and so you've got to work twice as hard as everyone else. You've got to, do your best. She didn't ask me to be top of the class, but she asked me to do my best. And when she had money in the early stages, she would get private tuition for me. And I always appreciated that as I got older. Obviously, I didn't know at the time it was fun at the time. I was like, okay, this is interesting, But my mum, she bought the World Encyclopedia for me. So she was, she gave me that love for learning and that support. I remember getting to a stage when I was at university, and interesting fact, I used to rap and I was quite good. I was on a label, performed, UK Hip Hop Awards, got out CDs, we pushed units. And there was a point where I said to my mum, look, Mum, I've got a choice here. I can either go into the corporate world or I could pursue my rapping career. And she said, Ansu, darling, whatever you decide to do, I'm 100% behind you.
Wow.
I know. And there was tremendous responsibility that came with that. And I admired the fact that my mum trusted me, having spent so much time and effort just getting me to that point. So ultimately I decided the corporate world was a safer bet. And I'm so glad that I did, but I will never forget my mum's support, both throughout the entire period. She never let, I was never hungry. I couldn't get, the Nikes and the Adidas's, we were going to Shoe World, getting really, really cheap stuff. But I got a love for suits. We used to go to Deptford Market and Dalston Market. She would buy these secondhand suits and then she'll tailor it. She'll go and adjust it. But I was always sharp in a suit. I was wearing suits from the age of like 7, 8 onwards. So I love a suit. Most people at work will know me. I'm the guy when people are dressing down, I'm still dressing up. And obviously my mum gave me the love for the Lord. So she would go to church religiously every Sunday, and over those many years I became a church kid, and I became someone who walked closely with Christ, understood my theology, my belief, and that helped me no end to be strong and be resilient throughout the rest of my life, and it continues to do so. In relation to my kids, I do the same. I encourage them to excel. I encourage them to do well in class. I compliment them, and I try to make them visualize their futures. Think about what they want to achieve. Obviously, that's more relevant for my 11-year-old. So I've got an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. But I encourage support, and I also show them what I'm going through when I was doing the MBA. I took them to campus. I'll show them some of my presentations or some of the exercises, and just help them to just have that confidence that they can do something similar as well.
I think it's what you described right now, and obviously, I really can see the shape, the way your mom really shaped you in those early days, and I think that those very formative years, even though you feel like a lot is not happening, it's really do. There's a whole lot is happening that still, and I think bless her. It's wonderful. Okay. So we've kind of walked through a bit of a background and your elementary schools and all of this. So I'd like to zoom back in. So back to, you said you visited Sierra Leone, I think 15 years afterwards.
Yeah.
How was that experience when you got back? How did you feel?
Yeah, for sure. So I had just finished university and I wanted to meet my dad. Right, so last time I'd seen my dad, it must have been when I was, like I said, 6 or something. So I couldn't physically remember him. Obviously, he was divorced from my mum, so it was very strange. And I decided I wanted to meet the man I wanted to ask him the questions. I wanted to get to know him myself. So, at the time I just put it on a credit card, got the ticket, bam, went out. And in those days it was a direct flight from London to Lungay, or from Heathrow to Lungay. I think it was Gatwick at the time. When I got there, I was shocked. I was shocked because everyone was black. The guards were black. The airport staff were black. The people in authority seemed to be black, and that was shocking for me. Because I'd never been in that kind of environment before. Meeting my dad was amazing, and fortunately I was able to. I then made a habit of going back every year. So I'd go back every year for about 4 weeks. I'd save up my habit was just, I didn't go on any other kind of holidays. I saved up all of my holiday. Then I took it all at Christmas, and I'd go back at Christmas and I'd spend 4 weeks there. It was great. It was great getting to know my dad. I met my sister for the first time, so my half sister, who I'd never met before that. Got to know her. Got to meet my aunties and wider family members. So it was amazing. So I made a pilgrimage every year. And then when I eventually got married to my wife, who's also from Sierra Leone, we actually got married in Sierra Leone, so at Cathedral, and then the Central Bank Complex. And that was amazing. My dad was there. My mum came, obviously. And yeah, just amazing. But that was the last time that I'd see my dad, because he would pass away about nine months later from a heart attack. But I'm so, God bless you. So I'm so happy and fortunate that I made that decision to put emotion and put, years of hearing things about the separation and what my dad had done, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad I put that to the side and made the decision to reach out and build that relationship over, 7-8 years.
So just taking a look at one of those. So I know there's a whole lot of people probably in that same similar situation. You get raised by a single parent, and which is fine. The circumstances happen, but people never trace that roots back. You get. What was the push for you for doing that? For I need to go find my dad. Was that a position of void or a position of fate? But what was the trigger?
That's interesting. So perhaps it was void. It wasn't faith. It was. I'd grown up without a dad, so I could survive without a dad and still be reasonably well functioning, which is difficult, but it can be done. And my mum had to play both those roles. However, I didn't want to get to a point in my life where that man passes away and I've never known him. I didn't know, because I knew he existed. And actually, from the age of about 15, he would call a couple of times a year, would send, a couple £100 or £100 for my birthday, which I knew was a sacrifice. And I could see at least he was making an effort. So by the time I got to the end of university, I was like, yeah, cool. I want to see him. The other thing is that I was still very much Sierra Leonean. So as I got older, I began to realize that my identity is not necessarily being Black British. Of course, I am Black British. I was born here, raised here most of my life. But at my core, I'm Sierra Leonean. The way my mum raised me was to be a Sierra Leonean. The food that I ate, the way that I dressed for certain occasions, and certain mannerisms. And when I went back, it was, seeing the plastic flowers. I just realized, oh wow, that's a Sierra Leonean thing, right? The salad with the baked beans, the luncheon meats, the sardines. I was like, oh, okay, this is an African thing, it's a Sierra Leonean thing. So there was lots of things where I began to see where this originated from. And I think before I went, it was really a desire to also connect with, my homeland and my people. And it's always wonderful going there. And I always wish that, now with kids who are, as I say, 3 kids, it's expensive for us to go. So, the cadence has kind of slowed down to once every 2 years, sometimes 3 years, but it's kind of been 2 years consistently. It's important to just reconnect both for the kids, but also for myself. But when we go there, it's just nice you feel relaxed. I don't feel like I'm being judged by another race. I don't feel, I just feel relaxed. I feel myself.
I understand that feeling.
There was an immense cognitive load living in the Western world, especially when we know that the majority population in whichever country you're in, Germany, France, UK, whatever, the majority of the population looks at you differently and overwhelmingly in a slightly or more than slightly negative way. And when you go back home, of course there's problems, of course there's a rivalry between tribes, etc. But the load is far less. In Nigeria, that's nice, but the Sierra Leoneans, we have leaves. We cook. Our palm oil is sweet. It's very nice, and the leaves that we have, bitter leaf, as I say, cassava leaf, kring, and so on and so forth. You know, we have such a rich range of soups and stews. That I would say that it's, and a lot of West Africans, when they eat Sierra Leonean food, they all become converts.
Okay.
And they'll like it. So if you and if others have not tried a Sierra Leonean cuisine, I'd encourage you to. It could be one of our great exports. And I say that unbiased.
I know. All right. So another thing before we leave Sierra Leone, Gatwick to Longhi, but I'm going to Freetown.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's going on. Tell me, what's the history? Because you have to fly to Longhi and then take a ferry that takes you down to Freetown.
Yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad. Absolutely, it's just a long, unnecessary journey. You know, you arrive in Freetown and you think, okay, the majority of the journey is over. In the good old days, like I said, the direct flight from either Gatwick or Heathrow, you turn up at Longhi. The first time I arrived, to get to the mainland, you have to cross quite a large stretch of sea. I took a Russian helicopter. So imagine, I'm in Africa, one of the poorest countries in Africa, in an old Russian helicopter. Thank God for his protection. I only did that once. Over the years, there's been lots of different ways. You either get the ferry, there's the government ferry, it takes a long time. Everyone is packed, cheek to cheek. Recently, they've created these small boats. Yeah. So you still pay $50, right? So you end up.
I think it's about 45 minutes or something.
Yeah. That's about right. So you end up on the small boats. You know, you pay $50 just across. You can get a car. You can drive. I think it takes about 3 hours around the peninsula. But that comes with.
Because I was doing the research, and I think it's got something to do with the swampiness of Freetown, and they couldn't get it wrong with. That's what I found online. I don't know how true that was. Yeah.
Possibly, but we have explored building a bridge. We've explored two things: the Sierra Leone government and pray for us. God willing, we'll get it right one day. The ideal would be to have an airport in Freetown.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into politics, but that was potentially on the cards from one of the previous administrations. But it has been decided that that's not the best course of action. The other thing that has been explored is potentially putting a bridge. But again, the expense of that has kind of ruled it out. So it's painful because you get to Longhi, and then you have this additional weight of traveling and cost. And on top of that, when you get to the airport, you have to pay an airport tax. So before you travel, you would have had to pay this. I think it's 25. So on top of your ticket, you've got to put aside $70, $80 for transfer from Longhi and then the airport tax. You know, and that's both coming and going. So, and imagine there's a party of 5 of you. Exactly, right?
That becomes...
Right, I've already dropped to $400 on it unnecessarily. One way.
I know. Okay. So let's cross away from Sierra Leone and come back. So this is you. Now you've probably your University of Sussex. What did you study? What influenced your first degree choice?
Yeah, I like that. I liked business studies when I was at school and I did GCSEs. Reasonably liked maths. Wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, so I wanted to keep my doors as open as possible. I think there's 2 subjects that kind of keep the door really open for you if you're non-STEM, and that is law and economics. I decided I didn't want to do law because I didn't think I wanted to become a lawyer, and so I did economics. And again, economics, if I was to go into the corporate world, then I knew that doing economics would keep lots of doors open. So that's what I studied. I looked for a course. So it was a choice between Loughborough, Birmingham, and Sussex for me. And I looked for a course that would not have too many contact hours. Time in the classroom and lectures. because I wanted to explore and grow as a person. And I'm glad I did that. I looked for a course that wasn't overly heavy with maths. I think that's more impossible now. Again, I was okay at maths, got a B at maths, but it's not my natural strength. And so I did a BA instead of a BSc. A lot of economics courses now are BScs because of the maths content, very heavy. Did economics, keep doors open, and loved it.
Alright, so I'm going to drill in a little bit. So you talked about if you're not going to go for STEM, you either probably do economics or law.
Yeah.
But you ended up getting both worlds because you're married to a lawyer, are you?
No, my partner.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So you got both worlds at the end of the day.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And upon reflection, I don't regret studying economics, but I think that if I had done a master's before the MBA, post economics, I would have done law, because I think if you're going into politics or if you're in the compliance realm, especially if you're working for a US firm, law degree is very beneficial.
Excellent. Okay, so this is you coming out of so now you finished out University of Sussex. I remember trying to get a graduate job when I finished uni. It's not the easiest thing ever. Yeah. So tell me, what was that like as soon as you finished uni? How did you navigate corporate England?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, now we get into... So another reason for studying economics is I'm quite a strategic person. So I'd encourage people, be strategic. What does that mean? Being strategic means that, number one, you have a goal, and then you do things consistently across all of your decisions that align with that goal. So when you think of going back to the business school now, right? When you think of Ryanair, they decide they're going to be a low-cost airline. That manifests its way in everything. They got rid of the planes and they got one type of plane. Why? Because it's easier and cheaper to get parts for the plane and to train the pilots. Okay, you get rid of the middleman for sales. You don't need a sales and distribution team. You go direct to consumers. You sign them up on your programs, and you sell to them directly. You don't go to the main airports, you go to the small airports. The point I'm making is that all of the decisions align to your goal. For them, it was, we are going to be a low-cost airline, and it manifests. So for me, I knew that I wanted to get into the corporate world. And so from an early age, the things that I started to do aligned. Now, to start from the base starting point, number one, you have to start getting a job and begin to get some income and begin to think a bit more, balance your books. My first job was £1 an hour, working in an off license as a security guard, right? You wouldn't think that, but that was my first job. Now I progressed to McDonald's, flipping burgers, £3.15 an hour. The McDonald's in Peckham Rye Lane is still there. Then I started going up market, went into Oxford Street, and I started working at Next, and then consequently M&S, and I was getting about £5.85 an hour. And I settled there for a couple of years. This is while I'm studying. Coming to the corporate world, so even that was a hustle. You can see I've gone from £1 an hour all the way to, I'm like, okay, cool, I need to change the game now. I'm in university. When I'm in university, we have these holidays. We have summer, we have Easter. Oh yeah, I don't have a lot of money, so it's not like I'm going to go gallivanting and go on holidays and trek the Himalayas like people go on family holidays. If you're well off, that wasn't an option for me. So what am I going to do this time? I'm just going to sit at home, watch TV? No, I'm going to work. Okay, so am I just going to go ask for extra hours at M&S? No, I need something that's going to help me to get, align my strategy and achieve my goals. So I asked around, I did research, I spoke to people, and they said, eventually I found out that Adecco, which is at the time a recruitment consultant based in Victoria.
Adecco. I've got a story.
Yeah, really? Yeah, all roads lead to Adecco. So they gave me some roles working at the DTI, Department of Trade and Industries. It was then called the CPS, Crime Prosecution Service. And I think there was one other. I forgot what the other one was. So 3 different roles. These were just admin roles. I mean, they paid okay, but they were just admin roles. But the point is, I can now put, after, I've worked for one Easter holiday, I worked at the DTI. Even though some of it was just stuffing envelopes and sending out letters and, changing some doing a little bit of word processing, all very base level. But then I could say, okay, I've worked in an office, I've worked for the government, I've worked for the DTI, I've worked for the CPS. So I did that in in Easter time, did that in summertime. By the time I get to my penultimate year, again, always look around you, you know, and this is why I love being around Nigerians, because you Nigerians, you're always hustling, you know. So the same way I said when I was in Peckham, I was hanging around with the Chinese and the Vietnamese guys, because they were the ladies. The guys were chilling, but the ladies were on it, and so I was copying them. By the time I get to later in life, and I'm kind of I'm keeping an eye on the movers. So yes, I'm the man about town on campus, but what are the serious kids doing? What are the ones that are going places doing? They're all trying to get internships. I was like, okay, so that's what I need to do. So I started flipping out notes and sending out applications to get a summer internship. And I got one at the Financial Services Authority, which is now called the Financial Conduct Authority, so the FCA. So I did that in my penultimate year. That went really well. It was an 8-week scheme. Stories there, but we haven't got time for that. And so I then applied for the graduate scheme. And because I'd done the internship scheme, I was successful. You know, there had 2,000 applications and there was only 20 roles. We had to go through assessment center, presentation, interviews, psychometric testing, got a spot. So coming back to how did my journey start? My journey started from when you get into university, start hustling. You know, you need to start getting experience, start doing things because I can also speak when I'm in interview, I could also speak not just about the internship that I'd done and the different jobs that I'd done with government departments, etc. I could also speak about what I was doing on campus. I'm president of this, I do this, you know, I've been to this conference for this reason, blah, 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 blah. And it all helped.
Oh, good. Excellent. Okay, so this is you, corporate England.
Yeah.
FCA, Financial Conduct Authority.
Yeah.
And then you probably were there for how long?
So that's a story. I was only there for a year.
Okay.
Because, and this is where, again, my advice to people is only go where you're valued, or only stay where you're valued. Sometimes people stay somewhere where they're not valued because they have an axe to grind. And they end up becoming bitter, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line, where they're not promoted, things are not going well, and they've stayed and they've tried to fight and change things, and it hasn't happened. So for me, it wasn't quite happening at the FCA, right? So I left within the year and decided, again, researching to try and find out what's the best thing I can go. I've got 1 year of real regulatory experience. Where could I go that will add value? Where could I go that someone will say, we like that regulatory experience? So I went into consulting. I went to Grant Thornton. And this whole idea of 1 year in consulting is worth 3 years in industry. Absolutely true. Yeah. I got to work on so many different projects, so many different clients. Got to practice writing reports for the partner, who then puts red lines for everything and tells you to rewrite, do it this way, tells you how to think, learning how to present to senior stakeholders, manage client relationships. That was impeccable training, great training, dressing up in a suit and a tie and every day, polishing shoes. You know, it was, because you really have to be polished as a consultant.
I know.
And so that was great experience for me. So yeah, that's how that first career journey went. Again, FCA wasn't working out. Don't force it. Don't try and make it work out. Don't stay longer than necessary. And then get somewhere where, again, people value your experience and somewhere where you'll be grown in the early part of your career, where you'll be directed and developed and enhanced. So that for me was Grant Thornton.
Well, that's good. So yeah, you did hone in something that 1 year of consulting is like three years. So yeah, and I think that's I can relate to that as well. So when I was flipping through your profile, so I saw BlackRock.
Yeah.
Come on, brother, that's big. That's big on the CV. So what's the journey? Tell me, how did you land up BlackRock? Yeah, how? I need to know that.
Listen, man, you're the big institution yourself, man.
I know.
Look, as you need to have a track record. You need to, BlackRock doesn't just, somewhere like JP or BlackRock don't just turn up. You need to show your skills, your competencies, and be attractive. So for me, Grant Thornton, fine, 5 years. Then I decided I wanted to be a consultant. Or should I say it's a compliance consultant, but I wanted to be a compliance officer in-house. So I joined Northern Trust, and I was there for 5 years again. But learning how to be a compliance officer, doing training, managing stakeholder relationships, getting a good relationship with the CEO there, who consequently became one of my referees for my new job and for some of my MBA applications, right? As well as my then boss. They're both big fans now and have supported me throughout my journey. But that was great, working closely with the traders and the portfolio managers, the salespeople, learning how to review marketing literature, doing all the stuff learning to do all the stuff that what a compliance officer is and how you navigate issues. And then there comes a point where, I've been promoted twice. I'd asked for not a new promotion, but a change in role, and they couldn't give it to me at that point. And again, always be mindful of your own timeline. For me, that timeline was, I've been here for 5 years. If you're telling me that I can't get this other role for, it's open-ended, depends on when the person moves. That's not good enough for me. I can't rest. My life can't rest on that. My life can't rest on someone else's decision. In that context, at least. So I decided it was time to move on. Started putting the feelers out there. Always nurture a list of contacts. In my case, it's recruitment consultants. I've always nurtured that list and that phone book of contacts. And so I got approached for BlackRock. Actually, the first time I said no, because I heard it was quite a hardworking, very competitive, a hard-shouldered or hard-nosed, broad-shouldered place. And I decided, actually, I'm not sure. Coming from Northern Trust, which is a lot more friendly, collegiate, etc., I wasn't sure. But then it came back on the market. They didn't secure the role, and they said, "Look, are you sure you're not interested?" By that point, I changed my view, which was, Ansu, hustle. Sure, you might be slightly uncomfortable, but it will toughen you up. So I went for it and got it. 5 interviews. Some of them were panel interviews with the head of EMEA compliance and an MD. But again, preparation precedes victory, right? If you practice. When I update my CV, I spend at least 6 hours on updating my CV. People just bish bash bosh. They add a few more lines, read it from the top, say every single sentence, realize, does that convey what you want it to convey? Have you conveyed successes as well as the things that you did? Can you speak to every single line on your CV? Are there redundancies on your CV, things that you did a long time ago where actually it doesn't help to inform the narrative of what you are seeking? Because you're usually seeking roles that are more senior. So do I think that telling on my CV now, telling someone that I was head of my school newspaper, is that relevant now, madam? No, I can remove that right back at university. So the CV should cater for the level of what you're going for. So going to BlackRock was excellent. Going to BlackRock, indeed it was. It's a tough environment. It's a hard working environment. People are collegiate, but they're also very competitive. And so you have to prove yourself and your weight in salt/gold. So very happy that I went there. And to your point, when you get these big marquees on your CV, it changes the game. It opens doors. People see you as X, ex JP, ex BlackRock, ex Goldman. It's that will never be taken away from you. So.
Excellent, that's good. One thing I was going to drive in, so we're looking at a career here that's starting from internship at FCA, got a job, moving into consulting, and then moving into BlackRock and all that. So, where did you see that? Where did you cross the line from middle level management into senior? When did you know that? I think I've cracked the game.
Yeah. So it always happens before you get the position.
Okay.
Right? Because there is a mindset shift. I had that mindset shift of, okay, I think I'm exec material. I think I can operate at a higher level. When I say a high level, I don't mean just executing technical analysis. It's the full gambit of giving technical advice, managing relationships, presenting to senior stakeholders, convincing other people, changing environments, managing meetings, delivering change, right? And I felt like I can do this. And so, I then went through a journey of speaking to people for either deputy CCO roles, chief compliance officer, or CCO roles, right? So having that direct responsibility. So my breakthrough was, getting the role at Polis Capital, which was called Ken Capital previously. And then, that was breaking into C-suite. I was now, I attended the board. I was, a member of senior committees. I was registered with the regulator directly, and I was responsible for an entire program. I hired people. I, had a budget, bought systems, implemented new policies. And you have to think in a different way. It's no longer just about, okay, what's coming in my inbox? Who wants an answer? Bam, send it out. It's now, okay, what is the firm risk in doing something? How do we do this and navigate away from the risk or manage the risk? How do I make senior people who are here deciding on the really big decisions in other areas believe in me? What is my brand? That was my breakthrough moment. That was it.
So I know in the corporate world, there's a role of a mentor, there's a role of a coach, there's a role of a, So in this journey, did you have any of that? A mentor, a coach, a sponsor? Because you and I know, at times you're being discussed, in the room. There's going to be a voice speaking for you.
Yeah.
What was the role of that in this career journey?
For sure. And just come back to the previous question for 1 second. When it comes to mindset shift, apart from that point where you believe in yourself and you start speaking a different way and you start dressing a different way, you start writing your emails a different way because you now believe, hey, I am senior, I am exec level, right? There's a finesse that comes with that, and that you make a decision and you have to remember every single time you do something or say something. I'd encourage people to remember that. And again, it's a mindset shift. And one of the things that I was told when I was at BlackRock by somebody, I won't mention who, he said, you see all these MDs around, and remember at the time I wasn't an MD, right? He said, all these MDs around, he said, they're not your friends, they're your competitors. And for some reason that just stuck with me. And it resonated with me, and I realized, of course, in the workplace, sure, you can have great relationships, you can work with people well and achieve things together, even go for drinks or dinners afterwards. Maybe there's going to be a rare number where you might invite them to life events. But many of them, most of them, they are competitors. They are trying to get pay and rations more than you. They're trying to get FaceTime more than you. They're trying to prove to the ultimate bosses or senior stakeholders that they are slightly better than you. They're not necessarily being bad about it. Some of them are, some of them are not, but they're competitors. But yes, to your point of
the mentors and sponsors, yeah.
Mentors and sponsors, thank you. Absolutely, I had many. And sometimes mentors and sponsors, obviously a mentor is someone that will give you counsel, good counsel. They'll kind of tell you this is, and sometimes they can be peers, or they can be slightly more senior peers, or they can be, truly senior people who you have no prior relationship with. I'd always say you should have more than one mentor. Have mentors for different things. I had mentors in the business. I had mentors in control functions, in compliance, and in internal audit. I had senior mentors outside of the organization, because they will challenge you. Sponsors, they are people who are senior, and you want them, as you rightly touched on in that comment, you want them to speak well about you when you're not around, right? To say, Ansu, or Olu, really good guy. I think he'll be good for this opportunity, or really good guy. I think that he does deserve this additional pay increase this year, over and above some of the peers, because of what he's delivered. And I've always sought to, with the sponsors, I've always sought to have good relationships with senior management, whether it's having the conversations with the CEO, or asking the partner at Grant Thornton, let's go for dinner, or coming in early, just so you can say good morning to the partner and they can see you there in the morning. And over time, you begin to then have, more enduring conversations. The squeaky, one of the painful lessons I learned was that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? You got to squeak. You got to say, guys, are we still on track for my promotion in 3 years? Set after 1 year gone, okay, cool, are we still on track? Am I still on track? Is there anything else I need to do after 1 year? Okay, right. Who do I need to speak to in order to get the buy-in and for them to communicate to senior management? Have I got the scope of role, the duration? Are we on track? Anything else that I need to do? You have to squeak. And likewise with pay. If you think you're getting paid, okay, right, I know it's not happening this year, but I'm hoping that next year we can get a better number. Just so you know, I've got a life event coming. I'm getting married. Or I've got a second kid coming. I think I'm slightly off market. I've provided you with information. I hope the next year is better. You've got to squeak.
Yeah.
If you're quiet, you're making their life very easy, and they'll just continue.
I know. I can imagine.
They'll just continue giving you what you want. So yes, I'd encourage people, make sure that you manage senior relationships very well. Make sure there's a couple who they are your sponsors, and you do ask them. I am going up for promotion next year. Are you willing to support me? Can you? Some of them might say no. All right. But more than likely, if you get to that point, they're going to say yes. Yeah. Even approach the ones who you think might say no, because at least they'll tell you why they think you shouldn't, and you can begin to address those. Mentors, you have to have, as I say, multiple for different reasons, in different areas.
Great. So this is you from Peckham to a world that's totally different from how you grew up.
Yeah.
Do you take some time to sit back and just soak in what you've done for yourself?
Look, I thank God, man. Right, I'm always grateful. I'm always eternally grateful because, my means and going into financial services, my means are very different. Financial means are very different as a result. Going into financial services was because I grew up in poverty, as I mentioned earlier on, and I said I didn't want that for myself and for my family going forwards. So now we're in a very different position where my kid, we do go on holiday. We can enjoy some pleasures that I didn't. I never went on holiday with my mum. Sadly. So the first holiday is the one that I was able to take her on, right? When I got.
Excellent.
Yeah. So yes, I do. The best way to do that is doing things like this, actually. And I'm blessed and honored to be able to share some wisdom. Hopefully, there's a few nuggets that I've shared that some people might be able to take in it, and it, like words that were said to me, it resonates with them. But actually mentoring others and giving back and speaking to others is the way that it allows me to reflect on my humble beginnings and what I've managed to achieve.
All right, so in finance, you probably will come across a lot of money managers, but what's the diversity in that skill? How many black money managers do we really have? I know in tech it can be a bit different. You probably could find it. I'm trying to dive into how really diverse is that space.
Look, I'm not gonna call out names. I know a few of them, and they always say to me, I ask them the same question, and they always say to me, I know all of the black either men or women in the city. Right, so speaking to one of them, again, I'm not going to name drop, but speaking to one of them the other day, she was like, yeah, there's less than 10 of us who are portfolio managers. And I think that there are more guys. I think there's like 20 or 30 guys. But I remember speaking to Reuters maybe a few years ago for an article.
Yeah, I read that.
Okay.
Yeah,
You've done your homework. I like that. Okay.
I read that, yeah.
Unsurprising, I like that. The number is limited, and I think we've got a chance of changing that. So there's three big areas in the business. There's those who are involved in investments, then there are those who are involved in sales, and then finally there's infrastructure. And I'm in infrastructure, right? So infrastructure, risk, compliance, legal, tech. I think on the infrastructure side, there are many of us now who have become senior. Right, and we should wrap our arms around that. We should double down on that. We should make sure the pipeline of those who will replace us and come alongside us is strong, because we have a foot in the door and we can open the doors for others, even into the other streams. In sales and marketing distribution, I think that is increasing. There are, there's a number of people like Justin, who's now at St. James's Park, like Gavin Williams, who's at BlackRock. There's a number who are in the sales, and they're very senior, right? So I think that if you're a black person, you're considering going into finance or investment management, you know that within infrastructure and within sales, there's a real shot. Within the investing side, there's still a lot more work to do. But I think, again, because of the successes in the other pipelines or the other pillars, the pipeline can be stronger and is getting stronger. And we have an opportunity if this generation continues to feed in new candidates for the future, especially on the investment side. And why do we focus on the investment side? Because that's where the real money is, right? That's where it's generational changing, right? When you've got a PM that's earning maybe 150, 200,000 base, but they're clipping $500,000 bonus, right? Those kind of yearly amounts into the community, into their families, and therefore into the community, can actually change
the game.
Change the game for the community.
All right, excellent, thank you. So I've been flipping through, as you know, I did a few research. So I know you, in 2021, you made it to the 100 ethnic minority executive list. In not quite too long ago, you were invited to Buckingham Palace for the Macy's for the Commonwealth celebration for, I think it was the diasporas as well. Can you just tell me, how did you feel when this happened? This too, and I'm sure there are probably more that I don't know about. But how did you feel being part of, this sort of list, the 100 executive list, and being invited to Buckingham Palace? What was the experience like?
For sure. Do more than just your work. Be involved in D&I, be involved in community events, be involved in things that you're passionate about, right? Because those things tend to open the door within the workplace, actually. So I referenced meeting Tony Blair. That was because, again, a passion. I was in the early parts of my career really interested in politics. So Operation Black Vote, I was involved in that, and I got to chair Margaret Moran. I chaired a Labour MP, or shadowed her, should I say, for a period of time, and Paul Boateng as well, then the Chief Secretary to the Treasury. In relation to the Diversity Award, I mean, again, it's an honour, it's a pleasure to be listed along such esteemed people. I don't know how that happened. Somebody recommended me one day. Somebody recommended me. They put my application forward. They put the case together about why I should be, and I got selected, which is awesome. In relation to Buckingham Palace, you have to network. I didn't want to use that word. We start with the term network, but actually it's building relationships, right? So when you build relationships with people, guess what? Even if you think I don't know senior people now, right? If you're younger in your life, your career, just building relationships is important, because guess what? Some of those people will become more senior and they'll open doors for you. In our case, we knew somebody who worked, who we'd been friends with for 20 years, who worked for then the Prince of Wales. And she's very, very, very successful and knows many other successful people. And one day we got the call, or should I say we got the invite. She's never invited us to anything before. There was no reason, but again, she can see the profile. She can see that we are both. My wife and I are both prominent people in our industries, in our sectors. And then one day you just get it. How did it feel? It felt amazing. I was in the room with, some amazing people. Footballers, captains of industry. People that you see on TV. Financiers. Some of who I met who. And again, I'm not going to name drop, who I never knew were so influential, but they're working behind the scenes to fund political ambitions of people and campaigns. And it was amazing. I made some contacts. I'll name drop Lord Simon Woolley again, because he was there. And again, 20 years prior, he's the one who selected me to get on Operation Black Vote and shadow the MP. So it was nice to see Lord Simon Woolley there, and we had a chat. Had a brief chat, and we're in contact. And yes, it was amazing to meet the king, then the prince. Again, we got a personal introduction to him. We had a short but meaningful conversation. He actually is. He has humor. He has a very good sense of humor. I mentioned Sierra Leone. I won't mention everything I said, but I mentioned Sierra Leone. He made a witty and an insightful and on-point comment in response, and my wife had a brief chat. And yeah, the amazing thing is, even though he's spoken to so many people, for the few minutes that he speaks to you, he is entirely and only focused on you, and on what you say, and he gives. So I look forward to hopefully again before my time is done, having an audience with the king.
All right.
That's definitely an aspiration, and it was amazing to be in a room filled of, and I don't use the term often, but black excellence. Yeah.
Great. I'm gonna drill on one point because we're trying to round off now. How did Mom feel when that happened? Obviously, how did Mom? She must have been quite proud of what you've become. But in those moments when you rang her and said, "Mom, I'm going to Buckingham Palace," how did she feel?
So this is a bittersweet. My mum has dementia, unfortunately. So she's a situation where she totally understands who I am and still remembers many of our journeys, but she doesn't have the full appreciation of things. So when I told her, she doesn't, it didn't really register. That being said, my mum is tremendously proud of me. I know that I'm her greatest achievement. So even now, she'll always tell the nurses and the carers, of me and my successes, and of her son. And she, even at random times, even when she's not necessarily as very lucid, she will, she'll just decree a blessing over me. Just say, "As you've never left me, God bless you. You're such a great son," etc., etc. Because we've had challenges. Obviously, this is it's too long to go into, but my mum has had lots of health challenges, and I'm the only son, so I've in many instances been a carer, or I continue to be a carer, and always have been. So it is. I know that my mum is tremendously proud, and even before she got dementia, she was tremendously proud and very happy to see what I've done, and continues to rejoice, or continue to rejoice as to my achievements. So I know from the bottom of my heart that she had the fullness of mind. She would be ecstatic and over the moon and very super proud.
I know. We are proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Okay. Imperial College, an MBA. And I know there's a lot of people listening in and trying to say, okay, let me map Ansu's roots. He did this and all. Just why an MBA? Why Imperial College? And what was the biggest? You've kind of touched on the biggest takeout, but what would be your, besides academics, what was the biggest takeout?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so number one, always have vision, right? Always have vision. So actually, when I was at Grant Thornton, this is 15 years ago, I was looking at, it was then called Tanaka Business School. I was looking at it, and I was figuring that if I was going to go anywhere to do an MBA, it would probably be Tanaka, which is obviously Imperial College Business School, because it was in London, it was accessible, it had a great profile, one of the best universities. So I've always had an eye on it. Actually, with COVID, it became opportune to do the MBA. So I already had a bias because I'd made a decision a long time ago. Why Imperial? I love the fact of being able to go in to actually be immersed in university life, and I want to soak up the academic achievements of the institution, the things that they have achieved. I chose Imperial because clearly from a STEM perspective, technology, they're world class. I chose Imperial because, it just, the program worked for me. Again, being strategic, I felt that an MBA would add to my brand and open doors for me. The same way going to BlackRock, I knew whilst it was going to be tough, it was going to add to my brand. And so I knew that the MBA at Imperial, not just an MBA anywhere, but at Imperial, was going to open doors for me. And I'm sure you can personally testify that I'm not someone who just came, did the work and then left. I was involved in all the different auxiliaries and functions as much as my time and my family commitments could allow me. writing articles, doing.
I'm still finishing with a distinction, by the way. Doesn't come cheap. Doesn't come cheap in Imperial. It doesn't.
No. Listen,
I know that.
You again, that was that spirit of excellence. You have to have a spirit of excellence and a spirit of competition, right? And that's me. And I've always been, I'm not perfect, but I push. And I started. For me, I started on the January program, and I had got accepted. I'd applied and got accepted, I think, by July or August. And I was speaking to a lot of people who had done the program. I was speaking to staff at Imperial around that kind of June, July time, August time, and really getting a profile of what I needed to do in order to A, get a distinction, and B, maximize the time there. And I did that. I achieved that, game, set, match. Because it's a time when you have a concentrated period to grow your network, but also reflect on how do I take my career to the next level. So now I'm a managing director at a large PE firm. That came up in the interview a couple of times. So Imperial, I said, I see you managed to get that's really impressive. Because what it does is it tells people, look, A, I'm clever. B, I can juggle personal commitments and work commitments, even though work is hard. And C, it just gives you that the brand gives you an extra sparkle, an extra shine. And
excellent.
I'm so happy that I did it.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Okay. Just going to the final sort of push, and then we'll round off. What advice would you have for your younger self? And in that, you're just so wrapping up with anyone looking at you now that they're still back up in Peckham, but they've got this vision of wanting to make something good for themselves. What advice do you have for your younger self?
Yeah, that's a good point. Look, I think if I was to give advice to myself, my Peckham self, that boy at school, of which I'm about to, or I have joined been appointed to be a trustee of a charity called SILA, Southside Leaders, or Southside Leaders Youth Academy. I've got that wrong. Southside Young Leaders Academy, and it helps young people in Southwark and Lewisham to achieve leadership goals, and helps them to get to good educational establishments later on in life, right? I would have encouraged myself to, and I think I did it, but have vision, continue to look outside of your bubble. For me, it was my Southwark, my Peckham bubble. Look outside your bubble and look at what you can achieve. Speak to people outside of your bubble to figure out what they achieved and how they achieved it. So if I could have done anything differently, I would have spoken to people in the city and spoken to people in the corporate world sooner or quicker. It's hard because you don't know how to do that. LinkedIn is great because in the last 10, 15 years, we can now just all reach out to random people and say, oh yeah, I want to talk. And some of them will say yes. But definitely look beyond. If I was to give advice to my university self, I would have, I would have said, focus a little bit more on studies. I mean, I still got a 2-1, I did well. Focus a little bit more on studies, the social aspect, the leadership aspect. Just dial that down just a little bit more. I think I got the balance right. I did really well, but I could have pushed this a little bit more. To my young professional self, I would have said, so my Grant Thornton self, I would have said, have more concentrated focus on really important things. So like certain exams, I've got CFA level 1, I've got the IMC, I've got the CFP, the mortgage advice qualification, but I did fail some of those exams, right? And I could have, if I'd done some of those exams quicker, I might have done some more senior ones quicker. So life should be in waves. Don't give it 100% all the time. You burn out 110% all the time. You've got to know what those key moments are, and then you're super focused on them. Then you dial back. I learned that eventually, but I wish I'd learned that earlier, because then I would have achieved some things quicker. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We're drawing the curtain. We have to. And but Ansu, thank you very, very, very much for gracing this. I hope our viewers are blessed. And I can't be more appreciative of you making time to be here with us. Thank you, Ansi, and thank you for gracing the show.
Olu, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Because of people like you doing projects like this, hopefully people like the younger Ansu listening in will gain those nuggets and be blessed. And I look forward to listening to a lot of your other speakers that you've got coming. None of us stop learning, so I'm sure I'm going to learn some things as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.